Okay. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Let me turn this down for us. Okay, let's have a look. 13:36 UK time, London. Let's just have a look at the cross assets. Let's go over multiple asset classes and see what's happening. It's always a good idea to flick through your. So I've got all of these asset classes over here, which, here and there, I will go over and just try and observe if there is any volatility shift or any sort of huge moves that are just obviously happening across the board, which may not be seen over here, but gold could be gearing up. Who knows? I don't know. Nobody knows. Okay, nobody knows where the market is gonna go and do. I'll be lying to you if I told you that I am 100% every single day, every single time. You are gonna take. If you're on point, yeah, you can avoid bad trades, bad entries, just to put out there. If you're not on point, you may get lucky here and there, or you may not get lucky here and there. Who knows? Okay, I'm just giving you the reality of how trading is. Okay, so you should always be prepared to. Why do you think there's a risk disclaimer on every single brokerage website? Trading carries a high level of risk. Okay, we had a spike here at 752 on CEVO. So far, London, Asia and London. Well, this is actually for yesterday. So Asia so far, exhausted distribution. That's Asia here. So Asia short. Now I'm gonna go over for all of you, my friends. So look at the beauty over here, yeah? The beauty behind this move. By the way, you've got Asia short, London longs, yeah? One thing with gold before I move into session to session inverses and all of the good stuff. With gold specifically speaking, yeah, it's gonna grab these mini sort of steps, if you wanna call it, yeah. I don't really like using any of these tools, for example parallel, but let me just show you. So obviously I can annotate over here. Look, so you've got, for example, this, yeah. Okay, that's your steps, and gold loves this, yeah. Look, but over here as well, you see steps. Okay, trend channel, parallel channel, intermediate downtrend, intermediate. Don't have to label. You don't have to. You don't need to. Create that sort of narrative when it comes to, oh look, downtrend, uptrend. No, I'm just showing you. Yeah, what to keep an eye on. Okay. Look at this, Asia. Okay. Gold loves, yeah, especially on the 15-minute time frame. Yeah, you're gonna see this time and time again. Look at this. Yeah. Okay. Look at this. Are you seeing? Yeah. Are you seeing what I'm seeing over here? Okay. You seeing this, yeah? Okay. Cool. I just wanted to share that, to be honest with you. I want you to have a look, because how can that sort of market vision noticing this and then noticing this, yeah, pre-London. So you've got Asia over here, and you got London open over 8 o'clock. How is that going to help us when it comes to Asia and London inverse, or New York and Asia inverse, or London and New York inverse? How is that going to help us? Well, I look at Delta's location. Delta was marked at, so Delta sits over here, 9:15, yeah? This is your Delta candle, 9:15, yeah? Asia and London inverse. Delta printed, downside discovery complete, breach 1, breach 2, price returns to the Delta, as you can see here, this candle, yeah? 1 second. Price returns to the Delta candle, Delta location, marker, here, 10:30, 10:45, tap, steady carry, okay, steady carry. I don't rely, we don't, I, myself, we, whatever, you, all of us, we don't need to rely on any sort of patterns, okay? All we need to keep an eye on is the moment price returns to the Delta candle, allocate your risk, take your exposure. That's it. You are gonna have to wait. The majority of the time here, the majority of the time is being spent waiting. Okay, waiting for the session to print. Okay, the session needs to print. I was longs from here yesterday, closed it, and then dropped. Okay, dropped because this is breach 2, 130. Shall I just go over? You know what I'll do right now while I'm here. I'm gonna keep this under 10 minutes, and then I'll start another recording and deploy it on the Discord handle. Why? You need this information. You need to understand this. Okay. Asia opens up at 12 o'clock. Now Asia needs to print the first high and the first low. Whatever comes first. Doesn't really, the order doesn't matter. So Asia opens up at 12 o'clock. Now I'm gonna keep an eye on every single candle until Asia prints 2 candles, yeah, with flat bodies facing to the upside or downside. Now upon Asia opening, 12, 12:15, flat bodies to the upside, 1, 2. Okay, that's your first high. Then what I do is I go onto the footprint charts. Yeah, I go into the footprint charts. I open up the footprint charts. Yeah, I look at previous sessions overall move. Previous sessions overall move here is to the downside. So short down. In order for me, yeah, to identify the delta, the required condition here is we need a bullish candle with bearish delta. So a bullish candle with negative delta on the footprint charts, and that specific candle needs to sit inside the first high or the first low or the breaches. So if we look over here, first high 12, 12:15, 12, 12:15, we need a bullish candle with negative delta. This is a bullish candle with positive delta, so we cannot use that. Let's move on. First low 12:15 and 12:30, flat bodies to the downside, 1, 2. Okay, let's have a look. This is a bearish candle. We can't use the bearish candle. It needs to be a bullish candle with negative delta. So 12:30, 1, 2. So first low 12:15, 12:30, 12:15, 12:30. We have a bullish candle, but it's positive delta, so we cannot use that. Okay, now we have to move over to the breaches. Now over here, yeah, in order for the delta to be printed, like I said earlier, it needs to be a bullish candle. So our only sort of possible scenario over here will be the upside breaches, because downside breaches are going to be bearish candles. So the upside breaches will have to be used. And if we don't find breaches, sorry, if we don't find the delta inside of those upside breaches, then we don't have a New York and Asia delta play, okay, which I will cover later on. Because if we don't have a if we don't have a New York and Asia delta play, then it's not going to be New York and Asia inverse. It's actually going to be New York and Asia mirror move. So Asia will replicate what New York has done. But in this case, things have changed. Yeah, let's have a look. Things were obviously different over here. So we look at the breaches above the first high. So let's go back to the first high. 12, 12, 15. Line the crosser up. Okay, we have breach 1, 12, 30, which belongs to the first low. We have breach 2, 115. Here, 115. That's also a bullish candle with positive delta. We need a bullish candle with bearish delta. So now let's look at the first low, because the first high doesn't have any upside breaches that has delta. First low, 12.15, 12.30. Line the crosser up. Breach 1, 115. Breach 2, 130. Breach 1, 115. Breach 2, 115. Now 130, bullish candle, bearish delta, negative delta. This is the delta candle. The required condition has been met. Perfect. I've already marked out that candle across the grid. I'm using where is it? Fucking hell, mate. Here. Background, white, 23% opacity. I'm keeping it clear because I want to see the wicks. Okay? So, what do we have? We have Asia's delta printed. Now, let's move on. Let me show you how this is going to work out so you understand what to do next. So now you know how to identify the first high and the first low. You also know that if New York is down, doesn't matter, any session. It could be Asia down, it could be London down. The same principle applies to every single session. New York is down. We are trading New York and Asia inverse. There's two models. There's a delta model and then there's a non-delta model. We have a delta model. Because we have a delta model, we need breaches below the first high and the first low. Okay? Which is called the discovery window. So, this delta here, it's a bullish candle, bearish delta. Yeah? You can see that the delta was responsive. Negative delta, sell side liquidity. It was responsive. Do you see? Bearish delta, breach 2, 1, 2, tap, tap, push into discovery. So instead of when you're trying to trade New York and Asia inverse, or London and New York inverse, or Asia and London inverse, without this delta information, it's a hit and miss. Because you're trying to trade, or you're waiting for, I don't know, some zone, some fib level, some whatever it may be. Okay, this is how it works. You need to know where the liquidity is. Who's in charge? Bullish candle, bearish delta, sell side liquidity. We have sellers that are going to rotate price to the downside. Breach 2, it is. When you practice, back in the days, I was practicing first high, first low. It was so powerful, and it is powerful. That's the foundation here of the micro session structure, or just candlesticks in general. Sorry, you know. The foundation here is first high and first low. So this is how you identify it. So now we have a delta play. Discovery is pending. What is discovery? Oh, the discovery is basically downside breaches below. Okay, the discovery is going to be in the same direction as previous session. So if New York is down, the discovery is going to be to the downside, as long as delta is printed. Okay, delta model. If it's not a delta model, then the discovery will be in the opposite direction. because the session needs to replicate previous session's inventory. Does that make sense? Yeah? Shall I re-clarify that one more time? So a delta model is obviously the current session doing the opposite of previous session, as long as delta is printed. Yeah? Price needs to revisit the delta candle once discovery is complete. Okay? Cool? It's very simple. But you get the gist now. So we have delta printed, first low, first high, upside breaches. The required condition for the delta print. It's all about the delta being printed. You have to wait for the delta to be printed. Okay? If you don't get the delta printed, it's fine. I can show you that later on. In this recording, I'm going to only focus on the delta sort of play. Delta printed. We go into discovery. We print breaches below the first low and the first high. Look at the first high here, yeah? 12, 12.15, that's the first high. Flat bodies to the upside, yeah? Cool. Breach 1, 2.15. Breach 2, 2.30. Okay? You never want to get involved when the market is in discovery. Never ever get involved when the market is in discovery. You wait for price to return to the delta, because the discovery can continue, it can continue for as long as it needs to. Yeah, never make that mistake. Even though we've got breach 1 and breach 2, breach 2 was respected, yeah, because the H4, the 4-hourly, was supporting that reversal from here. Otherwise, the discovery can continue for as long as it needs to. Okay, because you can actually trade Asia and London inverse or Asia and London discovery, yeah, with the same delta, because the delta is telling you we've got sell side liquidity. Okay, cool, sellers are in charge, cool, short inventory, straight push to the downside. Yeah, now that doesn't that doesn't mean that Asia can rotate. If Asia drops 400 pips, that doesn't mean that it's gonna rotate back for 400 pips back above, and then use the delta and then push another 400. So overall, you can't expect Asia to deliver 500 pips and then 800 pips all the way back up, completing the thought that you had, which was New York and Asia inverse. Does that make sense? Because then you're gonna miss the move. You're gonna miss the discovery move, because you're so diluted into thinking that you're always gonna see inverses. Asia left. Asia set itself up for London too. Okay, so Asia goes into discovery. Okay, London prints delta. London does that job on behalf of Asia towards here. Okay, multi-session playbook, multi-session swing. Look over here now. Okay, Asia short inventory. London prints delta. London's first low sits at 8:45, 9 o'clock. The required condition over here is that we need a bullish candle with bearish delta. Okay, so if we move over to London session here, so 8:45 and 9 o'clock. So 8:45 is a bearish candle. We can't use that. Bullish candle, bullish delta. Can't use that. Bullish candle, a bearish delta. There you go. 9:15. It's the breach above the first low. Yeah, breach 1. You have to literally zoom in the morning when you're mapping out sessions. First low 1, 2. Line the crosshair up to the second candle. Breach 1 higher. 9:15. Very simple. Raw price. This is raw price action, by the way. That's that breach 1. I've marked it out across the grid. Perfect. What do we see? So now what do we need? We need downside breaches. Correct? We need downside breaches below the first low and the first high. So first low, if you line the crosshair up to the lower wick or the body, breach 1 and then breach 2 back above. I did mention in my previous recordings, if you go have a look, I said that there's 3 types of breaches. You're going to get that classic breach 1, and breach 2. Another one, the other breach is going to be, the second type of breach is going to be breach 1 and then back above breach 2. Okay. And the third sort of breach is going to be micro breaches, where you get the body, yeah, here, breach 1 and breach 2. So you'll have to see it for yourself in real time frame to understand this. I can show you examples, you can go back test it and have a look, but it's not really going to satisfy you, because until you're not here physically on the charts, it's never going to sit well. Let's move on. First high, 9:45, 10 o'clock, 1, 2, yeah. Breach 1 to the downside and breach 2. So the downside breaches are completed, but that doesn't mean that, because if you look at this candle, 10:15, that is breach 1 to the downside, yeah. But where's the other breach to the downside? We don't have it. This can be classed, yes, it can be classed, you know, because it brought price back above. It can be classed as a micro breach, but it's not classed as a macro, you know. 1, 2. It all depends on if the market wants to accept it. That I cannot tell you. That is something that I'm still working on right now, because the market conditions are always changing on a session to session basis, and I cannot tell you that at the moment. You have to go with the flow. Look at yesterday, New York here. New York first high, yeah. We've got micro breach 1, yeah. We got micro breach 2 here, 1800 and 1645. So breach 1, which cannot broke above breach 1. This cannot breach 2. So that's micro breaches. But the micro breaches are still pending. So, you know, this is why you saw New York, Asia push, Asia set up London Delta printed, and it's all happening autonomously. So I hope that makes sense. Current session, Delta play. Yeah, we are in a Delta model. And that's it. You just have to see it for yourself, day in, day out, time and time again. And then, you know, once you practice it in real time, it's a walk in the park. By the way, I'm holding this towards 4,560s. Here, look at London, yeah. London prints first high. Perfect. Actually, I can show you this. Here. Look. So 8:45, 9 o'clock. Yeah. Look at this. Flat bodies to the upside. We don't have upside breaches, but price still continued pushing lower into discovery. Line the crosshair up to the first candle. Yeah. Shift over here. Look at this. 11:45, break above. Next candle, 12, break back below. You see? Breach 1 and breach 2. As long as it's tagging, you know, you have your first high here, 1, 2, yeah. But the first high, yeah, it's candle 1 and candle 2. It's the entire candle. So it doesn't necessarily have to be up breaches above the higher area. You know, the breach 1 and breach 2 can happen over here, lower area. 1, 2, 1, 2, you know. And that could give the market the reason to accept those multiple breaches from the lower area. So yeah, you know, it's literally raw price action, raw candlesticks, and yeah, just raw market analysis. I mean, what else do you see here? You know, I'm not drawing anything random. I'm not showing you anything random. I'm showing you everything precisely as to how it operates behind the scenes. I hope this helps you. It's 24 minutes into this recording. I've covered New York and Asia Delta play. I've also covered the discovery phase, Asia and London Delta play. Yeah, the discovery is pending to the downside. Don't be surprised if New York decides to push lower, and then whatever. So, okay, it's all part of the game. If you get stopped out during London, come back the next session. If you get stopped out during New York, come back the next day or come back the next session. You're better off being on point, yeah, once per session, and then come back the next session, because you're never gonna miss a move. If you skip, for example, look at this. I'll show you. Let me show you an example. If you missed a drop, okay, fine, cool, fair play. You know, I missed a drop too yesterday, but it's totally fine. We had Asia and London continuation, so Delta was printed, yeah, upside breaches were completed, but still, you know, we had unresolved inverse. So we had breaches pending over here, yeah. This session, Friday, New York session. Asia Prince breach one on behalf of New York, but there was one more breach pending. So that breach happens here 14:30. So the drop from here to here, again, engineered. It was expected, okay, because that had to happen in order for price to continue pushing higher. In order for price to push higher from here and whatever. So, but you get the gist. You understand what's happening here. The market is always chasing previous sessions or multi-session unresolved inventory, which is the breaches. The breaches are the unresolved inventory. Okay, and this is the truth. Look at this here. We have upside breaches pending. So what is the market gonna do? It's gonna chase that. It's gonna chase this level 4560, but it's not gonna just push one time, like here 1 2 3. It's gonna give you the opportunity to take shorts, long, shorts, long. I advise you buy the gold dips every single time because gold is in a bull market up until 6k, 7k. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. Let's move on. I'll cover non-delta plays in the next recording, but over here, just delta plays covered for you. I'll continue doing live tracking for all of you so you get to understand the back end of how I look at the markets. And this is just 10%. I've got loads to share, by the way. So let's move on.